We're on day 5,972 of the Vikings defensive coordinator search, and it is still ongoing. And it just seems like the Vikings missing out on their first choice, potentially missing out on their second choice, maybe missing out on the third and fourth choices, maybe ending up with Mike Pettin. I don't know. Like, it honestly feels like no one wants the Vikings defense coordinator job. Now, I understand, especially with coaches with options, maybe the upside isn't there, but it is still one of 32 defense coordinator jobs in the league. They're hard to get. They're certainly hard to get. But as of right now, the Vikings have formally interviewed 4 candidates. They were going to interview Vero, but he took the Panthers DC job. Sean Desai withdrew because he knew that he was behind Flores and Navarro. No one likes winning the bronze medal. Also, he's focusing on the Broncos' now vacant defense coordinator job. Brian Flores, who is clearly the Vikings' #1 candidate now that Vero is off the board, is reportedly a finalist for the Arizona Cardinals head coaching job. Also, he has requested an interview for the Broncos' now vacant defense coordinator job. Ryan Nielsen. Now, with Nielsen, it hasn't been reported where he was necessarily in terms of the pecking order. Like, was he above Flores or behind Flores? Above Desai, behind Desai? It doesn't really matter since he took the Falcons defense coordinator job, which was a pretty coveted post. Vero, like we mentioned, went to the Panthers. He was like, hey, can I get out of my contract so I can talk to the Vikings? Broncos, sure. All right, cool. I'm signing with the Panthers. And then Mike Pettin, of course, the fallback option is still here. But why? Why does it seem like the Vikings are just grasping at straws here, and why does it seem like no one wants the Vikings DC job? Well, we're going to go through 5 potential reasons. Number 1, no interest in a rebuild. So this Vikings roster is going to be a full teardown and rebuild, and they see this roster, and it's going to be in flux, and you don't really know what's going to happen. And as a defense coordinator, you can't really go into Quase's office like, so tell us what's going to happen. No, Quase is going to decide. And frankly, there isn't a lot of stability on this defense where Kendricks could be gone. Kendricks could and should be gone. Harrison Smith could be gone. Patrick Peterson might not be re-signed. Zadarius may not be back. Daniil might be traded. Diesel Dalvin Thompson might not be re-signed. So you don't really know what you're walking into as a defensive coordinator. And also the existing pieces, they didn't fare too well last season. So this is going to be a situation where if the coach has other options, and he's looking at the Vikings, and maybe he loves Kevin O'Connell. Maybe he loves Mike Pettin. Maybe he loves Kwesi. Maybe he loves everyone here. But this defense, there's a lot of question marks. And before you sign on the dotted line, you have no idea what you're going to work with. And that leads into number 2, concern about personnel. So, I mean, Brian Flores likes to play a lot of man defense, which is going to be fantastic, right? And for the Vikings, we implored them that they should play a lot more press man as opposed to just playing the 8-9 yards off the receiver, playing cover 3, cover 4, soft zone. But do the Vikings have the personnel? So that's the question. Caleb Evans played a ton of zone in college. I think that he does have the traits to be a press man guy. Andrew Booth is a press man cornerback, except can he stay healthy? Duke Shelley obviously is a press man, but who knows if he's going to be back. And maybe Kwesi is hellbent on re-signing Patrick Peterson, who obviously used to be one of the best press man corners in the league. He ain't that anymore. Like, he thrived this year when the Vikings played a lot more soft zone, so he didn't have to turn his back to the quarterback. So, I mean, So schematically, beyond the 3-4-4-3 personnel, just like, who's going to be here? And how can I cater my scheme, or how can I build a scheme around what's going to be existing? There's a lot of questions there. Number 3, the way they handled Donatel. And we pointed out that was the #1 reason why the Vikings didn't get the time of day from Vic Fangio this offseason. I think 100% Fangio's like, hey, the way you did my guy at Donatel dirty, nah. And it is a small fraternity. Everyone in the coaching community, everyone knows everyone. So that could be a reason why Sean Desai, who worked for a number of years in Chicago with Ed Donatel and Vic Fangio, maybe he wasn't so hot on the job after he was a finalist last year, the job that eventually went to Donatel. Maybe that's why, it's one of the reasons why he withdrew his name here is like, nah. And I mean, the Vikings were 31st in the league last year on defense, and maybe they see that it's like, hey, it was a talent. It wasn't so much Donatel, but Donatel got scapegoated, which could have some merit, could not. Who knows? But maybe the defensive coordinator coming in is like, hey, what if it's the same personnel? What if they run it back with a couple of these veterans? What if it's the same old song as last season, and then I'm going to be the guy blamed? And if a lot of these guys have aspirations to be a head coach, having a down season as a DC of the Vikings, that could be a black mark on the resume. And also they could be scapegoated, a one and done. And Think of how many hot coordinators there were surefire head coaches that just never got back in. Like Byron Leftwich is certainly one of them. Where he had the Jaguars job, but he's like no, and now he's out of a job. So sometimes they're just like meh. Next up, reason number 4. Maybe they don't believe in the culture, right? Because it is odd. I mean, Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell are trying the Ted Lasso approach, and maybe the defense coordinator coming in doesn't respect or doesn't like Kwesi's analytics approach to free agency and the draft and whatnot and building a team. Who really knows? But, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why. And like I said, it may not be the sexiest job in the world, but it is one of 32. That's why coaches take head coaching jobs for bad teams. That's why position coaches take coordinator jobs on bad teams. Is like also, I mean, there's huge upside here. If you take the 31st ranked defense and then turn it into like the 22nd or let's see it 15th plus, you're a miracle worker, man. Or anything beyond that is just absolute gravy. Lastly, number 5, they have options. All right, so looking at the candidates, Sean Desai can stay put with the Seahawks. They're building something nice in Seattle. Or he could be in the defense coordinator derby for the Broncos, who have a lot of great personnel. That makes sense. Flores obviously has the Cardinals head coaching vacancy, maybe the Broncos. Ryan Nielsen obviously had different options because he went with the Falcons. Ivero, again, obviously had better options because he went with the Panthers, and the Panthers are absolute studs on defense. So, I mean, there's lots of ways to explain this, but is the Vikings defense coordinator job a plum job? Probably not, which is ironic since plums are purple. But, I mean, this is a spot where a young, innovative guy could come in and be like, hey, I can fix this. And looking at the young personnel that are on this team, looking at getting back Lewis Seen, getting Asamoah the time of day, getting back a Caleb Evans as well as Andrew Booth Jr., working in Asazio Tamuwo, more and more, a young forward-thinking defensive coordinator or a guy that maybe hasn't gotten an opportunity sees this roster is like, mama, I can change him. If you keep Daniil Hunter, hell, I coach a 3-4. We'll go back to a 4-3, hand in the dirt. Let's go. That whole thing. But, I mean, there's a myriad of reasons why this job isn't filled yet. And this is why the Vikings are waiting so long, because everyone else is waiting on better options. But, hey, no matter who comes in as defense coordinator, tear this thing down, rebuild in free agency and the draft, and let's go build a bully. Let's go get after it, man. But your thoughts are thoughts. Why does it seem like no one wants the Vikings DC job? Let us know your thoughts and our thoughts in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Want to support the work, put a little something in the Venmo. But to next time, Skol, production value.